Children lost in a stray so long. Time to listen to this gathering song.
There has been a cold, pale spell cast against the sacred ancestral soulful essence of man, he and she. If we're going to break this mojo, it's time to know what to hold on to and what to let go.
High Priest Kwatamani, Supreme Soothsayer, Soul Seer, Spiritual Healer and Revealer, Chief Elder of the Quatamani First Genesis Tribe, the oldest, longest sustained, raw and living, plant fuel consuming, family community order known. Well over half a century and still going strong in the tropical rainforest.
Let's start with a little divine wisdom. No two different natures of energy can occupy the same space at the same time. We remind you that there are two different natures of energy, different as can be. Divine order, that bonding, unified relationship of masculine and feminine energy, he and she, going forward to multiply divine social, economic, family, community. And then there's that opposing nature of energy that seeks to divide, conquer, separate, and rule, splitting the bond of divine social, economic, family, communal order, separating man, he and she, into self-deifying individualism, where the isms and schisms of conflict, confusion, and chaos occupies the subconscious mind.
Wow, there are only two choices. Either one chooses the inner movement towards the wholeness of soulness, or one chooses to wander in the outer zone of self-deifying coldness.
And so what happens when you start to see, sense, and feel those intergenerational traumas birthed into you by those great-great-great-grandpapas and grandmamas? And what happens when the wholeness of soulness inspire the urgent desire to come out of the coldness? Detoxing and purging to heal is an absolute necessity. This holistic living reality will be very challenging for so many. Those who have been so deep into the assimilation, integration, and adaptation of the historical references, never ever reasoning with how those references have adversely affected mass populations.
We see the undeniable historical evidence of the coming of an invasive, divisive, violent, blood-spilling consciousness that waged war against our green earth solar conscious presence of higher peace. And we see the deification of that warlike consciousness by master warlords who invade, conquer, and enslave populations of children of the sun to this very day. And that destructive and depleting nature is glorified as proof of a right to survive. Well, sacred ancestral femininity has another view of conquest as her nurturing energies multiply, manifest destiny. What you put in is what will come out, and that is what will come back to you again, multiplied. War begets war to the bitter end. Life begets life to rebirth again. Our choice. We call upon the detailed records preserved by Manito, Kemetic high priest, scholar, and historian. He wrote of the Hyksos, desert-dwelling hunting and herding tribes who invaded Kemet, the Hyksos invasion, 1674 to 1548 BCE, almost 4,000 years ago. And still that invasive oppositional nature of energy dominates the consciousness of mass populations to this very day. Quote, invaders of obscure race marched in confidence of victory against our land. By main force, they easily overpowered the rulers of the land. They then burned our cities ruthlessly, razed to the ground the temples of the gods, and treated all the natives with a cruel hostility, massacring some and leading into slavery the wives and children of others. Finally, they appointed as king one of their number, whose name was Salitis. End of quote. The new rulers then instituted slavery, which was previously unknown in Egypt. These people were whom the connection between Apophis and Set was made. The foreigners had noticed the similarities between their god Baal and Set. They thus worshipped Set in Egypt. Apophis, the last remaining Hyksos king, took to him Sutek, Set for Lord, and served not any god that was in the whole land save only Sutek, Set. Here we can see the coming of the invading Hyksos, who brought in outsider culture, nomadic or semi-nomadic hunting and herding tribes and clans skilled in warfare, shepherd kings. Their social structures, economic systems, and cultural practices were fueled by the nature of bondage, blood spill, and ritual slaughter as the means and ways of their food supply. We further note the sacred garden culture of Kemet. Kemet meaning fertile, rich black soil. A social economic order rooted in crop cultivation with permanent family community settlements, monumental architecture such as pyramids, and centralized governing councils and priesthood rooted in Ma'at, universal order, justice, truth, mutual respect, and divine reciprocation. High Priest Manito provides a clear historical view of our sacred ancestral culture of higher peace and the coming of the opposing war culture of the Shepherd Kings. Taken from Book 1, the prophetic 12,594-year Banu cycle, encoding the consciousness of higher peace through the divine union of masculine and feminine energy, Book 1 by High Priest Kwatamani.
The historical tellings that we have just concluded are given specifically for those who have expressed a deep-seated desire to detox, purge, and heal.
We cite these historical events as undeniable evidence, proof of unseen energy as it manifests in the scene. Two different natures of energy, different as can be. Divine order or an opposing nature that divides to conquer and rule as a warlord figure of self asserting its will to kill, depleting life energy as its branding seal.
We do not have time to wallow in somebody else's sorrowfulness. Oh yeah, there are those who have victimized populations, but it ain't gonna do you no good talking about how they victimize you unless you are doing it for a holistic living purpose of identifying a nature of energy that we must dismantle within our own mental consciousness. And if you're not about dismantling that energy, you're grooming aches and pains for the next generation to wallow in. And so, what is it that we need to dismantle within the attitudes, values, behaviors, and beliefs encoded within our subconscious mindset? It's to recover our sacred ancestral first Genesis family communal order.
The dumb divorces. We grant you by these present documents with our apostolic authority full and free permission to invade, search out, capture, and subjugate the Saracens and pagans and any other unbelievers and enemies of Christ wherever they may be, as well as their kingdoms, duchies, counties, principalities, and other property, and to reduce their persons into perpetual slavery. The requirement. Requiremento. With the help of God, we shall powerfully enter into your country and shall make war against you in all ways and manners that we can, and shall subject you to the yoke and obedience of the church and of their highnesses. We shall take you and your wives and your children and shall make slaves of them. And we protest that the deaths and losses which shall accrue from this are your fault.
The bottom line of this supremacist crime have left mass populations deaf, dumb, and spiritually blind, fully unaware that it's the gathering. There's an absolute need for man, he and she, to recover the base root and foundation of family communal order. But you know what's so deep about this experience that we're going through right now? Anybody can openly declare their self-deification as a righteous claim, so long as they have the weapons of mass destruction, the ability to dominate, control, and rule over populations, to intrude and invade upon them in a manner that will split the nucleus of family communal order, separating he from she, destroying his ability to provide guidance and protection over his family communal order, so that she will become a platform to breed, seed, and feed that opposing nature of energy that represents the perpetrator's reality from that toxic nature of the self-asserted will. We are mentioning what it is that we are healing from, as well as to lay down a foundation of comprehension as to what we must recover in order to heal forward into our sacred ancestral garden culture family communal order. The bottom line of this spiritual crime has indeed left mass populations deaf, dumb, spiritually blind, totally unaware that it is the gathering time. Recovery is so essential at this particular point in time. We have survived things that are unimaginable. We walk with sacred ancestral pride. I'm talking about the sacred few of the few of the few of the few now. Hey, I know why the warlord uses his tactic to eliminate the male, to remove him out of the space and place, dislodge him so that he has no possibility of providing divine guidance and protection over the women and the children. This allows that hunting, herding, warring, tribal, masculine vibration to intrude and invade on the feminine essence, turning her into a weapon used to prevent the rise of green earth solar conscious masculinity, therefore destabilizing any possibility of resurrecting sacred ancestral family communal order. Always remember, the objective of the warlord consciousness is to divide, conquer, separate, and rule, taking control of the feminine hands that rock the crib, making sure that she breed, seed, and feed his opposing nature of consciousness into every offspring and vibration of the generation next. Therefore, the masculine he, born off of the conquered female, would have an entirely different kind of identification as far as what he would learn to glorify as true manhood. Yeah, he would be so quick to say, I'm my own man. I'm grown, man. Got a mind of my own, man. As though his personal thoughts, his reasoning, and his actions are outside of the master program that dominates, controls, and rules over him, his parenting lineages, and all of those who are of his social, economic, political, and religious experiences, be it atheism or otherwise. Each and every male would be focusing on how he could best compete to gain one-upmanship on the other, using anything that he can find to discredit the other, so as to maintain self-centered glorification. You see, that is the way of the warlord, the energy that personifies the lord of the warlord, the sentient nature, Sutek, that opposes divine order. We know that we all got dirty in this process, either through those intergenerations of ancestors which you were born, bred, and fed off of, or through your personal experience on a daily basis that keep you locked into that toxic parallel where the dirty vibration of disorder is fed to you on a daily basis based on what you have assimilated, integrated, and adopted. All of those attitudes, values, behaviors, and beliefs are then reinforced into the next generation of you or those who are bred off of you. Yeah, we got dirty, and we got a lot of detoxing, purging to heal in order for us to recover. You can't go through a situation where you're invaded and intruded upon and ripped, stripped, and raped, and shackled, and chained, and enslaved, or where the cold vibrations of a deep freeze, blood and flesh-consuming cave-dwelling experience enslave you into a vibration that makes you lose your consciousness as it would have related to you as a green earth solar conscious being, and in either case not suffer devastating adverse effects. Face it, the severe intergenerational trauma got encoded in your DNA lineage. We have a lot of cleanup, regardless of creed, hair texture, color of skin, or kin.
Do you know who you are and where you belong? The death consumption culture is where things went wrong.
The supreme circle of life is how we begin. Sacred ancestral masculine and feminine energy embodied within a soul-to-soul movement, a soul journey going forward to multiply the essence of life and supreme love into every offspring and vibration of the generation next. Whole life energy, masculine and feminine embodiment. This is where we must begin. You see, we have a lot of cleanup to do. We need to breathe, seed, and feed a new consciousness. In order to do that, we're going to have to band together within a unified bond of oneness, coming to the full recognition that selective breeding is an absolute necessity, that we have a lot of damage encoded in the DNA of so many. Some have not taken 1 ounce of whole life energy to begin a detox, purge, and heal because they feel satisfied, or they know no other alternatives. We have to stop these vibrations of just, she's cute, or she's fine, or he's handsome, and having no kind of comprehension of what's inside of that nature of what you perceive of or you're looking at based upon the attitudes, values, behaviors, and beliefs of the master program that you have been indulging in, and coming to a full core recognition that what we need more than anything right now is to come together in divine oneness, mental health and well-being, physical health and well-being, spiritual health and well-being, with a focus on going forward and multiplying a new breed of humanity, a new breed of masculine and feminine energy, he and she. And listen, check this out. I just decided to take a break in the midst of this presentation, and when I walked out, I met my daughters and my grandchildren coming out of a jungle path with cutlasses and weed whackers, expressing joy and excitement. We're preparing for an ancestral event. Our tractor was left in a dysfunctional state down by the creek. Yet and still, we had a massive amount of work to do to have the environment prepared so that those who are unfamiliar with jungle environment experience would be safe. Here's our circumstance. The females are plenty and the males are few. That is the accountability of almost every population who have been under the yoke of that nature of conflict, confusion, and chaos. And our social, economic, political, and religious experience is absolutely no different, especially among the feminine elders. Bear in mind, there are those who are born within this social, economic, communal order, although their parents are coming from the external environment. And then there are those who have come within the family community order in recent times, although they are parenting from the external environment. In any event, the parents of this social, economic, communal order are coming from that opposing culture. Therefore, there will be no choice except for those offsprings to bring forward those intergenerational traumatic DNA encodes with them. And this is what we're working to detox, purge, and heal.
Wow. There are only 2 choices. Either one chooses the inner movement towards the wholeness of soulness, or one chooses to wander in the outer zone of self-deifying coldness.
It is an absolute blessing that the I and I made the choice to follow sacred ancestral eldership, which required the I and I to lead the family community order into a rainforest jungle environment. The external environment that surrounds us is the status quo, the dominant culture. The experiences that these youth encounter when dealing with athleticism or their creativity interface with that external environment, the status quo. The option of matehood selections do interface with the external environment, the status quo. And so therefore, there will be influences by the external environment, the status quo. And that influence do indeed affect the youth, who are the branches of this family community tree. Now that you understand the circumstances, let's get back to the work that needs to be done and take a look at those who have decided to do the work necessary to uphold and maintain the principles, morals, and values of divine social economic family community order. What happened is that the sisterhood, that is to say the daughters and the mothers, had gathered and decided that they were going to function like their sacred ancestral Amazonian sisterhood would do. They decided that they were going to go and clear the area by hand, and that they were going to move the elements that were in the way to make the environment a more safe and healthier place to move about. And they were coming to gather the I and I so that I could see the work that was being done. In the midst of the I and I reasoning, with all of this and that, those blessed daughters stepped up with a holistic, living love expression, saying so sincerely, Papa, we give supreme thanks, praise, and appreciation for your fatherly instincts to get us into a wholesome and safe environment. Can you imagine that? They're in the midst of a jungle with jaguars and pumas and different kinds of snakes and all kinds of other creatures, telling they give thanks, praise, and appreciation for getting them into a wholesome and healthy garden culture communal environment. All I could do was get into that little sentimental place that the male can get into when he has been swept off of his feet with that love vibration of the feminine she. It was indeed so uplifting to hear those daughterings saying, we understand why we must maintain our sacred order. We have come to the realization that, yes, indeed, the feminine she is communal by nature, and we love it, Papa. We give supreme thanks, praise, and appreciation to you for taking us into a rainforest jungle environment so that you would properly guide and protect us. I'm listening and reasoning with these doctrines and watching them express, not in thought, not just in reasoning, but in action. And then I felt the encodes, because I have the energy and the focus and the fortitude to be tenacious enough and protective enough to secure them within a virginic state of consciousness, where they give honor, love, thanks, praise, and appreciation for their body temple, and not allowing it to be used as a tool to satisfy someone's lost and astray lustful appetite, fantasy, momentary enthusiasm. You know, those vibrations where someone look with lusting eyes and say, dang, baby, I sure like a taste of that. Being as irresponsible as can be because of the encodes that have penetrated their consciousness as a result of the intrusions and invasions that divided, conquered, separated, and split our sacred ancestral family community order into 14 bits, pieces, and parts, and then continue to split each bit, each piece, each part into an even lower and lesser broken down state. We cannot expect the sacred ancestral feminine she, to move any further than what that toxic parallel have her stripped and ripped and raped out into. What must be understood is that she, the feminine essence, is a product of her environment, and as such, a victim of her circumstances, and will be locked into that mindset until or unless detox, purging, and healing can manifest. We talked about the Lilith nature. She was also a product of her environment, a victim of her circumstances that have groomed and conditioned her into being the birthplace of sin. That nature of opposing energy sinned into her from those masculine, ego-driven males of the warlord syndrome who came, saw, and conquered. Please know this for a fact and never, ever, ever forget this. The feminine she will nurture what is brought to her, divine order or toxic reality. Self-deified fallacy will become her nature if that is brought to her. She is all that she consumes, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And if she's not getting a wholesome consumption, she will be that is the reflection of unwholesome consumption. This is how the Lilith nature actually came to be present. We are in a serious dilemma because in order for her to be able to divinely nurture sacred ancestral masculinity, that holistic living nature of masculinity has to be brought to her mentally, physically, and spiritually. This is why it is so absolutely necessary that sacred ancestral eldership be established within the masculine he, and that he put forward every effort possible to regenerate that sacred ancestral energy of whole life resurrection into the mother spirit. We're talking about the reestablishment, the recovery of the divine union of masculine and feminine energy, an expression that is clear and simple to comprehend. The action of the sacred ancestral masculine he providing divine guidance and protection over the women and the children, where she of sacred ancestral feminine energy know full well that she is the first teacher. She holds the first classroom in her womb, where her primary duty, obligation, and responsibility is to provide divine nurturing affection over the family community order, divine social economic family community order at work for real. Little did the I and I know that the mothers, the senior females within the community, had organized a session where we needed to sit down and talk about a few things. Now let's remember, I'm in the midst of this presentation that's so sensitive and so necessary, this presentation that calls for the resurrection of sacred ancestral masculinity so as to provide divine guidance and protection to sacred ancestral femininity. And the daughters and the mothers gave out this big surprise as the mothers sit down and talked about the circumstances that they had traveled through in getting to the state of consciousness where they are today. The expressions were clear and simple as the Queen Mother and the Senior Priestess took the floor, saying, "We realize that we have been a tremendous task for you. And we know that we have enabled the offsprings, especially the males, in ways and means that we could not comprehend." We're talking about reasoning with what occurred with that intrusive and invasive nature of opposition, that macho nature of masculine energy that has demoralized and degraded the sacred ancestral nature of femininity, and how it has played out in the generational curses, the trauma that has amassed, the level and degree of drama that each and every one of us has had encoded within our living experience. Actually, I really felt the mothership vibration. You see, the reality is there's no comprehension encoded in the male within that culture of self-deification. He's been broken away from that natural and innate contact with birth, that process that allows him to feel those 9 months, that process that actually would ensurge him with a sense of connection with that offspring in the birth. He don't feed the offspring off of his breast, yet he must be involved. If he's not, there's no way that he can feel the whole life energy of the generation next. This absentee relationship syndrome that disconnects the father from the mother and the offspring is the culture of that hunting, herding, warring tribe and clans. You know, the nomadic beings, those that just do what they got to do. Hey, I came, I saw, I conquered, and move on. That is a predatory culture, a culture that disregards Mother Earth, femininity, and any other living thing thereof for the sake of itself. Let's be clear. We must connect with our sacred ancestral identity. We are, in fact, sacred garden culture beings. Our natural and innate instinct within divine order is to uphold and maintain a holistic, living, collective, conscious, communal relationship with Mother Earth, wind, rain, and sun. In fact, we go all out to connect within the divine union of masculine and feminine energy, the essence of who each and every one of us be in divine order. We have to get in contact with that holistic living presence of masculine energy, that one that actually connects with birth, that one that connects with that offspring, remembering that he was an offspring in the womb of the feminine. You see, the masculine he, coming out of that vibration of intergenerational trauma, can be so difficult. He can be so headstrong because he has identified with an opposing nature of masculinity, and he upholds and glorifies that nature of masculinity, and that's the masculinity that comes through the mother spirit, because that's what was given to her and him by their foreparents, and their foreparents, and on and on. And until we get to the vibration of detoxing and purging to heal that nature, that is all that's going to come out of the masculine he, who selfishly or otherwise disregards the natural and innate requirement of he to provide divine guidance and protection over the women and the children. The I was clear on this from Jump Street. The reality is, it do not take a massive amount of masculine he's to breathe, seed, and feed a new consciousness of masculine and feminine energy. All it takes is a potent nature of masculinity, who has a devotion and dedication to the idea of resurrecting divine social, economic, family, community order, ready, willing, and able to apply the principles, morals, and values that will uphold, maintain the sacred order that actually must be forwarded at this particular point in time. And so as this communication with the senior sisterhood went on, then I began to realize that, oh my goodness, we must put every focus on the generation next. Today, when you look at it, you look in the households, very few times do you see the masculine close enough to his household to be able to provide the level of divine guidance and protection necessary to support the mental, physical, and spiritual growth and development of family community order. He's so busy chasing the delusions and illusions of success so that he can flash some element of materialism in order to be praised and glorified by his peers. And believe it or not, the objective is to spark the fires of envy and jealousy by those who look upon him, so disconnected from his own essence as a divine guiding and protecting nature, that he would rather push the offsprings, the male offspring, to follow the lines of the status quo, because that is the only level of masculinity that he knows. Is it because misery loves company? Is it because of the crab in the bucket vibration, or is it because he's hoping his offspring can accomplish what he was not able to accomplish within that status quo culture that he upheld and maintained to the bitter end? We need to reason with that, and we need to get a comprehension as to what we, who are focused on resurrecting sacred ancestral masculine energy, should be doing right now. We need to be present mentally, physically, and spiritually. That's right. They say home is where the heart is. Others say home is where you find it. We need to find home in our heart and be near and dear to home for the sake of the women and the children. Growing, planting, harvesting, doing things that are necessary, cultivating natural creativity and skills for the benefit of sustainable living within a divine social, economic, family, communal order. We cannot possibly detox, purge, and heal without sacred ancestral eldership, and any detox, purging, and healing that do not include our divine union of masculine and feminine energy, he and she, is simply another delusion. We have to keep a sense of connection with the wholesome mental, physical, and spiritual health and well-being of each other for the survival of humanity. I don't know if you can feel the vibration, like I'm feeling the vibrations right now. And for those daughters, those sacred and blessed ones that finally started to come through the mother spirit, there I give supreme thanks, praise, and appreciation for each and every one of you. And we don't have any time for no bitterness. The only thing that we are required to do is to uphold and maintain the sacred order of divine social, economic, family, community. So blessings be upon you. The energy that you brought forward today to the I and I when you said, Papa, we all gathered and got together and went out and cleared the land so that it would be properly prepared for the upcoming gathering, celebration, honoring the unification of one of our brothers and his mate. It brings tears of joy and satisfaction to the I and I, simply because all is not lost. You all are setting a divine example of divine nurturing affection. And believe you me, all it takes is for the sacred ancestral blessing of the feminine she, encoded with divine nurturing affection of divine social, economic, family, community order. And we will do this. This is something for us to focus on right here and right now as we prepare for part 3 of this series. It's the gathering time.
It was for told and pride.